Welcome to Daily Grace. This is Tuesday, and I hope you're having a great one. When you join us here each week, it might be the closest you get to heaven in your whole day, or else it might just make you believe in purgatory. I don't know. Over the 9 weeks that we've been doing Daily Grace, by far the best reviews we get are when we have a conversation with a friend or an interview. And I ran out of local friends, so I had to go to LA and find a new friend to be our guest today. Actually, you don't know this, but he was scheduled to come and preach at Grace this past weekend. But with COVID, we're going to reschedule that. So let me introduce you to author and speaker Becket Cook, who has written a fantastic book called A Change of Affection, a gay man's incredible story of redemption. So Becket, thank you so much for being here. And how are things going in California with COVID?
Well, thank you, Jason, for having me on. And COVID, I mean, it's nuts out here. You know, what are you going to do? It's like now there's a new thing that just came out last night. There was a text that went out to every Los Angelino that said you cannot leave your house without a mask on. Like you literally can't walk out of your front door without a mask. So it's a little intense here, but we're surviving.
Yeah, so you get a lot of time. And you were telling us just before we hit record that actually your house is your apartment is a 1940s, and it doesn't always, only some of the rooms have air conditioning.
Yeah. Yes, I know. I'm still living in the 1940s, basically. Yeah, like this living area that you see is, this is my living room. It's not air conditioned, but normally, you don't really need AC in LA, but except in like August or something.
Huh.
But it's gotten hotter over the years, I think, and just because there's more congestion, and I don't know. But so it's a little difficult, but it's good today. It's like 72 degrees.
Oh, that is nice. That's perfect. So out here where it's pretty agricultural out here in Lenoir County, Eastern North Carolina. But I have been reading that the smog is less in LA because the cars are not being used as much. Is this true? Do you notice anything?
Yeah, but the thing is, smog is definitely less, but it's kind of a non-issue because of the extreme restrictions on exhaust. I mean, because Elon Musk lives here and everyone drives a Tesla. There's really the smog is so minimal here. I mean, it used to be like I mean, I didn't live here in the 80s, but in the 70s and 80s, it was like terrible. In the 90s, it was getting better, but now it's like, it's not, you don't really notice it.
I got you. That's interesting. So that's all we know of LA is movie stars and smog. Like that's all we know.
Yeah. The smog is kind of that's an old thing. It doesn't really exist that much anymore.
Well, look at that. You learn something new every day. I love it. So thanks. Okay, so LA, where did you grow up there, or how did you get there? Of course I know, but just, for our friends.
I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and then I moved to LA after college, and for better or for worse. And I've lived here since 1990. I know a lot of people haven't been born yet at this point, but I've lived here since 1993, and I love LA. I just have such every time I come back from being out of town, I'm like, oh, I'm home. Like I love this town. And one of the great things about LA is the people, and there's so many people who come in town from all different parts of the world that if you don't live in LA, like I have friends in New York, I have friends in Paris, I have friends in London, like really close friends. And I would never see those people if I didn't live here, because people come to LA all the time for stuff. And so that's what I love about LA too, is being able to just see so many people and old friends and stuff. So I love it.
That's very cool. I love that. That's fun. I grew up in Montreal, which is in Canada, and it's cosmopolitan like that, and it's very European and Canadian American, and so it's just this conglomeration, especially with the Francophone world, the French-speaking world. They often immigrate there, and it's so much fun to be a part of a thing like that. And so now I live in Kinston, which is filled with all sorts of cosmopolitan flair, Eastern North Carolina barbecue, and no, anyway. We have so much fun. I've lived here 17 years, and I do almost feel local. It's so fun. I love that our kids.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
I want to come to Kinston soon. Let's like figure this out.
I know we should just send a private jet or something and get you over.
Yes, well, I like that idea. Let's do that.
I don't have as many of those as I used. No, I shouldn't joke like that as a pastor.
I know, right? They might, yeah.
Well, listen, you write in your book, you write in A Change of Affection, that you lived and identified as a gay man, and then how God reached out and grasped your life that you really didn't expect and didn't see coming. Share with us some of that journey. I mean, it's so, and I told you before, you're a great writer. It's a great book.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I basically, since high school or college, I basically identified as a gay guy. I knew I was attracted to the same sex very early on in my life. But once I moved to LA, that's when kind of the floodgates opened, and I fully embraced my identity as a gay man. Had a series of boyfriends over the years. Went to gay pride parades. Went to all kinds of things, parties, and I had a great time in LA. I kind of lived the life, I just hung out with movie stars and like vacation with people, and went to Oscars and the Emmys and Golden Globes and all that stuff. And a long story short, I mean, I go into great detail in the book, but I basically got to a point in my life where I was like, is that all there is? I was in Paris at Paris Fashion Week when this really kind of seminal moment happened. And I was like, is that all there is to life? Like, there's got to be more, but I know God's not an option because I'm gay. So what do I do for the rest of my life? I honestly was just like beside myself and kind of like, I don't know what to do. And then, as God would have it, 6 months later, I was at a coffee shop in LA, and I was with my best friend, and we met some strangers next to us, and they had Bibles on the table, which was bizarre to see in LA. I had never seen that. And so they invited me to their church the following Sunday, and I surprisingly went. And even though, because I had asked them, what does your church believe about homosexuality? And they said, well, we believe it's a sin. And in that moment, it was like this kind of, I had this moment of, okay, it was like a flash. It was like, maybe there's a tiny chance that God exists, like very slim. And if God does exist, maybe homosexuality is a sin. By the way, I have gay neighbors, so I have to be careful. But maybe homosexuality is a sin. And what if I've built my whole life on this false foundation and I don't know it? And it kind of was like, whoa, like, okay. So I accepted their invitation. Essentially, I still wanted to think about it over the week. The next Sunday, I went to the church. I got up and I drove to the church by myself. They had given me the address, so there was no communication needed after that. So I went to the building in Hollywood. It's in a high school auditorium. And in an LA public high school auditorium, I don't know how it's still, I don't know how that exists still. But anyway, so, and then, I heard the sermon, and I was like blown away by the gospel. It was in Romans chapter 7. The pastor was preaching out of Romans for 2 years. And he was on Romans 7, and he preached, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is true. And it was blowing me away. Like my mind, I was just like blown away by it. And then after the sermon, during the worship time, that's when it all happened. Like the Holy Spirit just like hit me like a ton of bricks. And God revealed himself to me in that moment. And it was like, it was like I knew in that, I mean, it was like a near death experience. Like I just read some, I wish I had it with me. Oh, it was from Charles Spurgeon the other day. He wrote about this kind of experience with God when you are converted. It's so powerful. It's almost like a near death experience. And so I just started weeping and weeping, and I knew the truth in that moment. I knew that God existed. I knew Jesus was his son. I knew heaven was real, hell was real, the Bible was true. Like all that stuff I knew immediately. And then I came home and I had a second experience. I got in bed to take a nap, and then because I was so overwhelmed by all of it, I had been crying for like an hour, during the service, and afterwards I was just bawling and bawling. And because I had just met Jesus Christ, I just met the King of the universe, so I was like so overwhelmed. And then I got in bed, and it was like God was like, "Let me show you more of my glory." And I just was like, "Whoa!" And it happened again, like the same kind of intensity. And I jumped out of bed, and I was just like, God, in the middle of my bedroom, I was like, God, you have my whole life. I'm yours. I'm done. Yeah. Like, it's over. I'm yours. And the interesting thing is I knew in that moment that homosexual behavior was a sin. I knew that it was no longer a part of who I was. Mm-hmm. It wasn't my identity. It was like a thing of the past. But I didn't care because I just met Jesus, and I was like, good riddance to that old life. Like I'm going with this life. Like this is amazing, and I'm gonna go with this guy, Jesus. So that's kind of in a nutshell what happened.
That's fantastic. And I mean, thank you for sharing that. And then what's happened since then? Like you're kind of on a different career path now, and what has God done with you just to bring you up to kind of today, which I know you.
So I was a production designer for many, many years. And for, I don't know, since like 2003, I've been a production designer in Hollywood. And so I would do production design for fashion shoots for like Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, the covers, and like for Gap, Old Navy, and like Gucci, whatever, just all these different brands, Nike, Puma. Like I would do the sets for these shoots. But when this little book came out on the market, I got like a crazy email from my agent, and they dropped me as a client. And they didn't say it was, they kind of said it was because of the book, but not because of the content of the book. It was really bizarre. So basically I kind of lost my career because of the book. And but I knew that was coming.
Right.
I knew that was going to eventually happen, because it's one thing to talk about your experience, to people, because I was very vocal on the set with people. I would share the gospel with everyone, but it's another thing to have it in writing. And so it became untenable for me to continue to work in Hollywood with actresses and Jessica Chastain and like Katy Perry and all these actresses who, if anyone on the set like mentioned something about my book, I mean, it would have been chaos, like on the set.
Yeah.
So it became untenable. And then God, of course, being God, like he segued me into this kind of world of full-time, except with the COVID virus, kind of full-time ministry on the subject of homosexuality. So now I go, speak at conferences and churches like yours, and speak at different events and stuff on this issue, and help. Because here's the thing, it's like Christians, I don't know how it is with your church, but in my church and a lot of other churches around the country, and is the culture is so powerful. Mm-hmm. It's so dominating, and we consume it all the time. And the culture is telling us lies constantly about everything, including sexuality, 24/7. So my kind of, what God, I think, has called me into, is to help the church understand the issue of homosexuality biblically, theologically, culturally, from someone who's been on both sides of it, and to see, because there's so many blind spots, and to help people see those blind spots of like, oh wow, like the culture really has influence. Because like, for example, I have so many friends from high school who, you know, I went to these private like Jesuit high schools, and the girls' school was Ursuline, but they were all on the same page with like back in the day, they absolutely believed that homosexual behavior was wrong and a sin. I mean, up until maybe, you know, Queer Eye for the Straight Guy started airing on TV. But now suddenly, like they've shifted their convictions, and it's like, okay, so what has happened? What's happened? Has God's word changed, or has the culture influenced you so greatly that your whole all of your convictions have transmogrified or changed? And so that's really what I think God has called me into.
And that's a great, because we need that help. Everybody, like the culture needs that help if they want to listen, and the church needs that help. Like we always need to be pressed to learn more, to think better, and because the cultural pressure is against us. And I'm not saying that as like oh, woe is me. I think it's very exciting. I think it's exciting to get to live the adventure, and it's dangerous, and it is. And you've endured some of the danger by, whoa, your agent drops you and you can't get that kind of stuff. But the excitement is, you know, we're walking with the Lord into the world he loves, and it's going out and the word of the Lord is going out in amazing ways. So as we think of kids, I just really kind of have two more questions. One is about tolerance, which sort of comes with, and then one more pastorally, sort of for folks in our body. But you know, we like to pretend we're living in a tolerant age, but we're not. I think the Pope was right, Benedict, when he said it's a dictatorship of relativism. It was just right for the money. That's exactly where we're living. And
we live in a postmodern relativist world, which is, I warned people for decades about postmodernism, because it started in the 50s, and it with Jacques Derrida and Michel Foucault, and these French philosophers, and it's like it's all coming home to roost now. It's like my truth is my truth, your truth is your truth. There's no objective truth. It's all subjective. By the way, if we have time, I want to tell you a story that happened yesterday with someone. But go ahead.
Tell it. No, tell it.
Well, well, the guy who was cutting my hair was talking. He's kind of like a newish friend. I mean, we're acquaintances, really. But he was saying that we were talking about truth, I guess, or I forgot what the subject exactly was, but he said something about, you know, oh, well, he's not a believer. And he said, well, I don't ever like to tell people they're wrong. Basically, he said, I think it's wrong to tell people they're wrong. And I'm like, you just broke the law of non-contradiction, because that's a judgment. You're saying that I'm wrong because I have an objective worldview. And so you basically just said I was wrong. And so there's that kind of trap that people fall in, that postmodernist trap that people fall into all the time. I mean, it happens like all day long. And it's come home to roost, and it's like it's taking over the world until Jesus comes back.
It's true, and it is kind of where we live and always have lived. Is we were having a conversation with a friend, but pride is it. It is the number one source of everything that's wrong with the world. Is pride. Is just my way is it, and why aren't you on my page? And you know, without common grace, without saving grace, it's just a disaster. I like the way you say this here on page 165. So I love the way also the book you wrote is the first half of it is your story, and the second half of it are these great nuggets, some frequently asked questions, but then also several little thoughts on different parts of Scripture as it helps us and equips us as Christians engage the world specifically about homosexuality. So I appreciated that, because I'm like, wow, I'm getting to the end of his story, but I'm only halfway through the book.
You're like, what's he gonna do now?
That was great. Anyway, tolerance. Tolerance used to mean something along the lines of, well, I disagree with your view, but I'm willing to tolerate it because it wouldn't be tolerance otherwise. But now it's been redefined, and it's this: if you don't affirm everything I do, then you are intolerant. What a stunning reversal. And that's
Yeah,
true. Like now, it's not just, well, we have different views, but let's live together. It's, you have to affirm everything about me, or you're phobic, or you're a bigot, or you're a Neanderthal. And it's just like there's nowhere to go with that.
right. I know it's a very strange phenomenon, and that really has in the last, I would say, 5 years, that's been ratcheted up a lot. And it's not only like affirming in a way, it's almost like it almost become like, not only do you have to affirm, but you have to celebrate
Right.
something that, my worldview. You have to celebrate it, otherwise you're a bigot, you're judging me, and so that's become really difficult in terms of ministry, or I mean, obviously God will, soften people's hearts, but it's, and I talk about that in the book, the deal breaker. It's like the deal breaker for coming to Christ. A lot of it is, and it's not just for people in the LGBTQ community. It's also people who are heterosexual who are like, oh, I can't become a Christian because they believe that homosexuality is wrong, and I don't want to be seen as a bigot. I don't want to be seen as, so it's really become kind of like a bizarre kind of, and I think I talk about that in the book, where everything is just like black is white, right, like wrong is right, up is down, like left. It's all, everything is like flipped upside down right now in culture, and it's a really tricky time to be to be in culture.
And it gives hope though, because when there's a veneer of Christianity, people are inoculated.
Yeah,
Just mix two metaphors, but when there's a little bit of Christianity, people are inoculated to the truth of the gospel. When it's just dark, people hearing the gospel for the first time are arrested by how great this Jesus is. And of course, the work of the Spirit is in it, but it's just a joy to think of people coming to Christ because they're hearing the gospel for the first time.
yeah, and this time, this COVID time has been really amazing, in terms of people reaching out to me, because people are starting to have the time now to wonder what life's all about, and to think about death, and to think about, what is their God. Anyway, I had a very long story, very short. I had an actress reach out to me. She lives in Malibu, and she's a very like well-known actress, and she told me, she's like, Beckett, I'm ready to leave the darkness. I'm tired of it. Like, what is the light? Like, tell me. And we've been having these Bible studies on Zoom every day through John, the Gospel of John. So that's been a really cool kind of thing to happen. And the gay thing for her is not a stumbling block. Like, she's not gay. She's not homo, but
Right.
she, like, that's not a stumbling block for her at all.
Mm-hmm.
So she's ready to come, and I'm just like, God, please, like, because we just keep going through the Gospel of John, and she's getting it, but it's like, it's not like me when I went to church and it was like, bam, it's like a slow process, which is fine, but
Yeah. Well, everyone, there's,
yeah.
the Lord has a different journey for us all. One of the reasons that we initially reached out to you, Beckett, as a church and invited you to come here in the middle of May is because before COVID, here in our community, we were in June, there was going to be sort of a gay pride day and sort of a festival downtown. And we did not want to be a group of Christians picketing or judging or anything like that, but we wanted to provide our body with, and our community with, sort of the joy and the grace and the goodness of the gospel and equip Christians to love their neighbors and respond redemptively, but in truth. So
Right.
that's the first reason we reached out to you. And then the more I've gotten to know kind of you and read and watched some of your stuff on YouTube, I'm just thrilled. And I can't wait for us to reschedule you. But quickly, kind of here at the end, in our families and in our friend groups here, we have gay friends and we have gay family members. And I mean, just kind of pastorally or just shepherding, what are the most helpful ways and the least helpful ways to love our gay friends? Like how would you kind of give us a nugget here?
Well, there's a lot of different ways, but I'll try to give you a kind of a snapshot of one. The thing is, the first thing that's important is to have your convictions settled on this issue. Because going out and trying to love people, and you just have this amorphous idea of what, like, oh, I don't know if it's true. I don't know if homosexuality is wrong or not. I can't tell. Have your convictions settled, and then go speak the truth in love. And so I think one of the best ways is to, there's so many ways. I mean, just befriending somebody and having them over or like hanging out with them, although maybe that's not possible during this time. But I think just because my sister-in-law was a good example. I talk about her all the time, but she loved me. She was so just, she loved me unconditionally. She never judged me, because like if she had judged me, I would have never hung out with her. You know, when I went back to Dallas for the holidays, she always wanted to hang out. She always wanted to, you know, hear the latest of, you know, news of my life. And I would talk about guys. She would talk about God. She was an evangelical Christian, and she just loved me. And she prayed for me for like, I don't know how many years, 15, 20 years. And she prayed actually one verse over me, Acts 26:18. She prayed that verse. I don't know if you want me to read it right now, but or people could just look it up. But she prayed that verse over me for many years, and God answered her prayer. And so that, I think, being loving, but also being clear on you don't have to be like crazy about your convictions, but it's like, because of my sister-in-law, I already knew what she believed about. I knew that she believed it was a sin. She didn't need to like remind me of that. She didn't need to tell me that over and over. I already knew that. And so, but I think once you establish that, but then you're able to just kind of love somebody, then that's the best scenario. Just like say, you know, I'm a Christian. This is what I believe, but and by the way, it's like there before the grace of God go I. I mean, I live in West Hollywood, which is the gayest part of the world. And it's like God plucked me out of hundreds of thousands of people in LA to be in his kingdom. And it's like, I don't hate you. I love you. Like there's nothing but love I have for you. And, you know, but I'm still going to stick to my convictions. But I mean, obviously, like it's like I didn't, you know, deserve redemption. I didn't deserve eternal life. And so I'm not going to be angry because somebody else is like, you know, not living according to the scriptures or something. So I think it's like just patiently loving but holding fast to your convictions is the key.
That's great. I mean, knowing your convictions, loving unconditionally, which you can't do if you don't have convictions.
Right.
And then I hear you, you know, praying in Acts 26:18. I can't wait to look that up. But that's three great things, because, you know, we want to be part of God's kingdom here with folks. And you're right. And that humility.
Yeah.
There go I with the grace. Thank you. Well, Beckett, thank you. I mean, we took more than the 15 minutes we said we'd take, but you're so fun to talk to. It's just great to chat.
No, it was fun to be with you today.
Well, and we will, as soon as they start flying planes more and all that kind of stuff, we'll get you on the docket, get you out here to Eastern.
Oh, good. I can't wait.
We can't wait to be with you. Thank you so much. We will be praying for you from here. And now that our folks are watching this, everybody go out and buy A Change of Affection. You'll enjoy it. You'll love it. and not that he's on the show to promote the book, but we should be promoting the book. We should support him.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, and have a great evening or afternoon for you.
Thank you. You too.
All right. We'll see you.
All right. Bye, Jason.